Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something really quite common, but often profoundly terrifying for those who go through it: sleep paralysis. Now, this isn't just about sharing scary stories, although, believe me, we have plenty of vivid ones, straight from people who've lived it. It's more about understanding this fascinating, sometimes disturbing place where our mind and body intersect,
Yeah.
where dream and reality just blur.
Yeah, absolutely. And our mission today really is to pull out the key insights from these really personal accounts. We want to get beyond just the definition and really grasp the true nature, the psychological weight of sleep paralysis to help you understand what happens when our deepest fears, well, they literally wake up with us.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this. At its core, sleep paralysis is, well, it's a temporary state, right? Your body is frozen, like it's still deep asleep, but your mind is wide awake, fully conscious of everything around you.
Exactly.
Imagine waking up. You're totally aware of your room. Maybe you hear sounds, but you are completely locked down. You can maybe move your eyes, but that's it. The rest of you is just stuck.
And what's fascinating, or maybe unsettling, is how common it can be. I mean, only a small percentage suffer frequently, but there's a pretty decent chance most people listening might have it happen at least once. It's precisely when we fall into that gap, like one account said, somewhere between our dream and reality. Mhm. Technically, it's linked to REM sleep. There's something called rematonia. Basically, your brain paralyzes your muscles during REM so you don't, physically act out your dreams, run around the room or something.
Right, that makes sense.
But with sleep paralysis, there's a glitch. Your brain wakes up, or part of it does,
Mhm.
before that muscle paralysis switches off. So mind on, body off.
Okay, so let's be clear on one thing. The paralysis itself, the not being able to move, that's not actually dangerous physically, is it? Your muscles are just offline for a bit.
That's correct. In itself, the paralysis isn't harmful.
However, and this is where it gets really intense and frankly terrifying, these episodes often come with incredibly realistic hallucinations. It's like they seep right out of your dreams into your waking awareness. Sometimes they even seem to blend with your actual room.
hmm And that raises the big question.
Mm.
Why are these hallucinations almost always so terrifying? They aren't just random images. People describe, classic ghosts, demons, shadow figures, sometimes even things like alien abductions. And
Oh.
it's not just visual. There are other things too. That crushing feeling on the chest you hear about so often, difficulty breathing, and just this overwhelming, profound sense of fear and dread. It's visceral.
It sounds like a multi-sensory assault.
It really can be. It's feeling a presence, maybe it's weight, hearing things, sometimes even feeling touched. The brain, it's in this weird state, trying to make sense of being awake but paralyzed. And it seems to tap into our most primal fears: vulnerability, intrusion, suffocation. It generates scenarios to explain the sensations, or the lack of them.
And the impact. These aren't just bad dreams you shake off. They feel so real they can seriously mess with people psychologically, even during the day, affecting their sense of safety. And as we'll hear, in some really rare cases, they seem to coincide with actual, tangible physical events, too. The terror can spill over into waking life.
Definitely.
So let's get into some of these accounts. These are chilling first-hand experiences. You'll hear how these common symptoms we've talked about show up in incredibly personal, vivid, and frankly horrifying ways.
Yeah, and taken together, these stories really paint a picture of the whole spectrum.
Mm.
The sensory overload, the emotional terror. It happens when consciousness and paralysis collide. They're like windows into the mind's capacity for fear.
Okay, let's start with a theme we could call the intruders. This one person.
Mhm.
They described having sleep paralysis almost monthly, always the same kind of thing. Lying on their back, seeing the room, totally unable to move except for their eyes, and then dark figures start appearing, just in the edges of their vision, utterly terrifying. They said they had to literally scream themselves awake. It would start as this low growl and build into a full scream that their partner could actually hear. Imagine that.
Gosh, and that account had some really specific, chilling details. One time, they said a dark figure whispered a nursery rhyme right into their ear in a language they didn't even recognize. They called it manna.
Whoa.
And even more disturbingly, at another time, they felt surrounded by dark figures who were actually stabbing them. In the abdomen, the pain felt so real, so intense, they actually went to the hospital later that morning, and it turned out their appendix had burst. Now, it's really important to be clear here. Sleep paralysis itself doesn't cause direct physical harm like that. It's extremely rare. But this case, it likely shows how the brain, in that hyper-aware, terrified state, can interpret intense internal physical sensations, maybe from the appendicitis, starting and weave them into the hallucination,
Yeah.
making it feel incredibly real and directly connected. A terrifying mind-body link.
That's unsettling. Then there's this other account. Someone described experiencing sheer unimaginable terror, consistently seeing this pitch black creature. Something they said was 100 times more terrifying than you could imagine. Just think about that. Fully awake, fully conscious, seeing this thing right there in your room, and you have absolutely no escape. You can't run, can't even cover your eyes.
The psychological torment must be immense. Just being aware, seeing this horror, and having zero control. They talked about trying desperately to move, to speak, but never being sure if it was actually happening or just part of the dream state.
Yeah.
It takes this huge effort, apparently, and you're just trapped in that dread, knowing it's all happening inside your head, but feeling completely real.
But interestingly, that same person who described those terrifying demons, they also had a completely different kind of experience. Their sleep paralysis guardian angel.
Oh.
Yeah, after about 18 months of these frequent scary episodes, they said they could usually tell when one was starting. This one time they thought, oh no, here comes the demon again. But when they managed to really look, they saw a man kneeling beside their bed. And he was smiling, but not like a creepy smile. They said it was like a parent coming in to check on their kid.
Huh.
He was apparently dressed in a 50s style suit and hat, didn't say anything, but just radiated this powerful feeling that everything was all right and he'd look after me.
Wow, that's really different, a rare counterpoint to all the fear. It suggests the range of these experiences might be wider than we usually think.
It does. But moving back to the more common terror, it's not just visual intruders. The sounds and feelings can be just as bad, blurring that line of reality. One person remembered waking up paralyzed, trying so hard to call out for help, and they heard their brother's voice clear as day from the other side of the door, asking if they were trying to talk to him.
Okay.
The chilling part. Their brother didn't even live there. But in that moment, it sounded absolutely undeniably real. The auditory hallucinations can be just as convincing.
Yeah, it shows how the brain can just fabricate sensory input when it's trying to make sense of that paralyzed state.
And a friend's experience really captures this multi-sensory thing, too. He woke up, couldn't move, started hallucinating this weird man hobbling into his room right next to the bed. Then the man was in his blind spot. He couldn't see him anymore. Just pure terror, waiting. After a few minutes, the man suddenly pops his face right in front of his head, covered in blood. Oh my God, like a jump scare you can't react to.
Exactly. Completely vulnerable.
That feeling of helplessness, it's amplified when your own senses are betraying you like that, making you believe in a threat that feels so intensely real, even if it's not physically there.
Then there's the home invasion scenario. This person was lying on the couch, fell asleep, woke up paralyzed, heard their back door being forced open, then hurried footsteps, crossing the kitchen floor, then the dining room floor, getting closer and closer to the living room where they were trapped. Couldn't move, couldn't yell. They only managed to snap out of it right at the last second, feeling like they were about to suffocate, which they realized later was probably due to sleep apnea kicking in.
That specific fear. They actually said, I know someday I'm going to die like that. Not from a real intruder, but dreaming about it, realizing it's happening while they're actually suffocating from the apnea.
That's heavy. Yeah. They said the nightmares from the apnea were making them nuts.
It's that pervasive anxiety, isn't it? It stretches way beyond the episodes themselves, turns sleeping into something you dread.
And that fear of suffocation, it comes up again and again. Another person described getting sleep paralysis almost daily, even during naps. It would start with feeling stared at from the closet or seeing shadows darting around, sometimes hearing a deep voice speaking gibberish.
Right.
Then a cold sweat, total paralysis.
Right.
Followed by this heavy weight on their chest and arms like someone was physically sitting on them, and then freezing cold hands would start to choke them. They try to thrash, try to scream, but only these little whimpers would come out.
And they even mention a pillow being used to suffocate them sometimes. That's incredibly graphic. Intensifies that feeling of helplessness, that primal fear of dying right there. And their conclusion was just chilling. I rarely sleep because of this occurrence. It's a tragic look at how this can just devastate someone's quality of life. Sleep becomes the enemy. Some experiences are just profoundly disturbing on a visceral level, like the story of the decaying woman.
Oh, yeah.
This happened during a nap at a friend's house. The person felt this weird sensation, like a power outlet being uploaded into their head, managed to open their eyes, and saw this hideous, decaying woman on all fours, crawling onto the bed towards them.
Ugh.
She started by slowly, lightly rubbing their cheek, but then it turned into clawing. And then, it all happened fast. She seemed to reach into their chest and rip out their heart.
Jesus.
It felt so real they woke up screaming. Their friend ran in. They were physically shaking, mentally just wrecked, could barely even explain what had just happened.
That level of physical violation, even hallucinated.
Hmm?
It's hard to even comprehend the terror.
And then there's the spectrum of entities people encounter, and sometimes the disturbing intimacy of it. One person mentioned having a few different sleep paralysis demons. The worst one, the most intimate and chilling. They were lying on their side, back to the bedroom door, felt someone get into bed behind them, under the covers, put an arm around their waist, cuddling them. They could feel breath on their neck. Described it like getting cuddled by a skeleton with claws.
That is deeply
It
unsettling.
gets worse. This thing moved in closer as if to kiss them behind the ear and whispered,
What?
"Not yet. You're not ready yet. I'll come back when you are."
Oh, wow.
The person said it sounded both disappointed and excited, like this silent promise it would return right before they died.
That's a whole other level of psychological terror. The promise of future horror, a premonition delivered by your own brain. It leaves this lingering unease, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And finally, this college dorm story really highlights how incredibly real these things can feel. This person hallucinated a mouse running over their body. Okay, maybe plausible in a messy dorm, right?
It could be real.
But then they started having trouble breathing, looked down, and saw a very large black snake wrapping itself around their torso, squeezing them. They swore it was, and this is a direct quote, "so fucking real." By far their most vivid episode ever. Woke up screaming bloody murder, terrified their roommates.
And that experience actually shifted things for them, didn't it?
Yeah.
They said something like, I used to kind of like sleep paralysis, maybe finding it intriguing, but no more after that one. Now when I fear they're coming on, I force myself to wake up.
Mhm.
It shows how just one profoundly awful event can completely change your relationship with it. Turns any curiosity into just desperate escape.
The brain learns from trauma, right? Makes you dread the next potential encounter even more.
So after hearing all that, what does this all mean for you, our listener? We've heard these recurring threads, haven't we? The paralysis you can't escape, the truly terrifying hallucinations, shadow people, demons, physical attacks, that overwhelming sense of dread, the desperate struggle to move or scream, and all of it feeling incredibly, undeniably real. Yeah, connecting it all. These accounts really hammer home how deeply affected our minds can be when caught between states of consciousness. It just highlights the sheer power of our perception and the raw, primal fear that can just well up from inside us. It really shows the incredible and sometimes, yeah, terrifying things the human brain is capable of. Especially how parts of the brain dealing with fear, like the amygdala, can become super active during these states, generating these vivid threat scenarios.
So for you listening, while these experiences are clearly vivid and frightening for the people who endure them, maybe understanding the mechanics behind it can help a bit. Knowing it's likely a temporary brain hiccup, a misfire in the sleep cycle, not necessarily some supernatural attack. Perhaps that offers a little bit of control, or at least demystifies it somewhat, maybe offers a path to coping.
Hopefully, yeah. Knowledge can be empowering, even against something this frightening.
But here's something to leave you with, a final thought to ponder. For those who've been through this, the line between what's real and what's imagined just dissolves in the most profound way. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If our minds can build such vivid, multisensory realities when we're just hovering between waking and sleeping, what does that really say about the nature of our perception? How solid is the reality we experience every single day? Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the unsettling world of sleep paralysis. We hope exploring this is giving you maybe a deeper understanding. Until next time, stay curious.